Hi, welcome to another episode of the Better Minneapolis podcast. Today, I'm here talking with the Forward Independence Party. Sorry about that. And my guests are Phil Fuehrer, the state co-chair, and Bill Halter, the state co-chair. So, Phil, maybe I'll start with you. Could you just introduce yourself a little bit?
Yeah. First, thank you for having us on. We appreciate the opportunity. I'm Phil Fuehrer, state co-chair for Forward Independence. Our website, www.forwardindependencemn.org. I've been doing this politics, alternative, third-party politics for about 30 years, starting with the original Independence Party. I come from that side. We'll probably talk a little bit about the merger in a bit, but from the Independence side, Bill comes from the Forward side, and believe that we need something different in politics. And today, especially, and over the last 30 years, it's gotten worse. The tone and tenor, we need to change that up. And our mantra is really to be able to listen to each other, talk to each other, and do so with an honesty that, and a belief that good ideas can come from all sides. And that's the way to govern. And I think our merger starts to pull that together.
And have you worked on any of the previous Independence Party candidates or campaigns?
Yeah, I like to joke a little bit for listeners and viewers that may not know. We elected Jesse Ventura in 1998.
Okay.
I was involved, started in 95, but I looked around the candidates that we had, and everybody was flocking to help Jesse. I actually then ended up becoming one of the lead strategists and campaign folks for our Secretary of State campaign. That led into our U.S. Senate campaign in the year 2000, and then since then I've advised several dozen campaigns over the intervening 25 years.
Okay.
And Phil is the preeminent name in independent politics in Minnesota, and I'm happy that he saw the last bubble that there was for independent candidates, and now we're entering certainly another one. People know that we have to do better. We cannot keep just giving our allegiance to two warring factions that are more concerned with putting points on the board than they are of actually getting things done. And so we're at that point now, and the point where we are as a Forward Independence Party, the merger of the Independence Alliance Party and the Forward Party of Minnesota, is that this week, we're going to announce our first slate of endorsed candidates at the governor level, state auditor, and for Congress and CD6. And so it's one thing for people to be upset with where we're at and politicians not really listening to them. They're listening to their special interest groups who are helping them win elections, and they're listening to their party heads. That's not enough to get them to vote for a third option. And so our job is to present them viable, good, ethical candidates. And we're excited to do that on Thursday, the 20th at the state capitol.
Great. So, and tell me a little bit about yourself, Bill. How did you get involved with the Forward Party? And I take it you live in Minnesota?
Yeah. Born here and always have been affiliated. I always have called myself an independent. And you end up having to in most situations vote for a Republican or Democrat. In some cases, I've felt really good about that vote, and I think that's a really key element to our party. If there is a Democrat who's running with integrity and running with great ideas and backing it with research and those kind of things, we'll support them. If there's Republican legislation that makes a ton of sense for our state, we will support it. We are not here for power. We are here to make things better. But what we have realized is part of that equation is going to have to be that we are going to have to start electing some third-party candidates who can kind of bridge the divide, because right now we are going in opposite directions.
Well, Minnesota certainly has a history, as you noted, of supporting independent candidates. So thank you both for coming on to talk about this new party. So, yeah, explain to me, I have some knowledge of the Forward Party. It's the party that Andrew Yang started.
And to add on to that, so Andrew Yang was a Democrat who ran for president, and then Governor Christine Todd Whitman was a Republican governor. So it was a Republican and a Democrat who are the two co-founders of the Forward Party. Yeah.
Okay, all right. So how is it that the Forward Party and the Independence Party came to merge? Like, why now? What was the motivation?
You know, from my perspective, we've been here a long time. We've had great success. I think it's fair to say that, you know, from 2010 on, we waned a little bit. We did get minor party status back in the 2022 elections. I'm sorry, the 2024 election. So we're starting to I think, ascend again, while almost simultaneously the Forward Party started to kick off and become the new kid on the block.
Mm-hmm.
And I like to use sports analogies. I think both of us on a football stadium, we're both, you know, and where most Minnesotans are, and Americans, I think, sit between the 30-yard lines or the 35-yard lines in a stadium. And we had been talking for a while about merging and getting together and seeing if we could cooperate a little bit, and those discussions kept moving. And, you know, we got to the point to say, look, we're competing for the same people. We believe the same things. It makes little sense to compete against each other.
Mm-hmm.
There's an old Monty Python, Life of Brian movie with the People's Judean Front and the Judean Front of, or the People's Front of Judea and the Judean People's Front, and there's like three different versions of the, and they're arguing over, you know, which one's best, and having those conversations make absolutely no sense. So we came to the conclusion, voted to probably nearly unanimously on our side. I think it was 90 or 85% on the Forward side in separate, simultaneous but separate conventions to merge together.
And I'll say the merger has gone seamlessly. I mean, and I think the biggest reason is because there are no egos in either of our tents, or now our one bigger tent. We all just want a better political system. Mm-hmm. And so you put all those people together, and you've got a similar vision. And now there may be plenty of policy things that we disagree on within the party. That's okay. So when we talk about what our party stands for, we stand for, let's get people to the same table, bring fact-based reasons for why you're arguing your position, and let's come to solutions. Sometimes that might mean you saying, you know what, I hadn't looked at it like that. You're right. I'm willing to give in on my position, or maybe there's a compromise that's met. We are absolutely pathetic in those regards right now, and it is something that we're not willing to just stand on the sidelines and criticize. We're looking to try and do something about it. So when it comes to, as Phil mentioned earlier, our candidates who run as a Forward Independence candidate, we are not going to dictate, you have to run on this, you have to believe this. Someone running for the State House in St. Cloud is going to be different than someone running for mayor of Minneapolis. Their constituents have different needs. It's a different area, different economies. And so those candidates should go and find out what their constituents want and need and run on that. Of course, there's going to be some positions that aren't going to work with our party and are a little bit too extreme, and maybe they have another party that would make more sense for them. But for the most part, between those two 30-yard lines, we can find common ground as long as you're willing to tell the truth, work with other people of both parties, and try to get things done.
So I wanted to ask about the structure, I guess, of parties in Minnesota. You mentioned that you got back
Minor party status. Yeah.
And my understanding is that they made it a little bit more difficult to become a major party. Is that right?
They being the Democrats.
Yes.
The DFL. Yes. They. So the old system was 5% of us. Well, there's three ways to do it. We won't go into the weeds. The most common way to do it is 5% of the statewide vote. The Democrats moved that to 8%. Which, if you look at the math and the candidates that have run since 2000. There's functionally no difference between 8 and 10%. Mm-hmm. There's been nobody that got 8.1 to 9.9%. They either broke 10% or didn't make it to 8. All of our candidates, by the way,
Okay.
The old Independence Party. So yes, they did make it a little bit harder. They also added some other, if you do get, or when we do get major party status, added in some additional hoops and hurdles to go through that the Republicans and Democrats also need to go through as well. A variety of conventions and meetings that have to be held.
So is that part of the goal with the campaign, is that you get over 10% and become a major party? Is that?
Well, it is 8.
Yeah,
It's
eight, yeah,
it's
yeah.
8%. I'm
But,
just
yeah.
saying functionally. There was a debate for if folks follow the state legislature. They had set it at 10, and everybody almost to a person comes in and says, "What are you doing? It's anti-democratic. The reasons you're doing this are just really aren't valid." And they compromised and gave us 8%.
Okay. But so is that a goal, though? That's one of the things you're hoping to achieve with this?
I think it is a goal for us.
Yeah.
I think it is a goal
Okay.
for us, and I think we've got candidates coming forward, particularly the statewide race. We've got a great auditor candidate coming up, unopposed, and I think our gubernatorial candidate will have a solid shot at doing the same.
And what benefit is there to being a major party as opposed to just not, or being a minor party? I mean,
There's two big benefits to major party status versus any other designation, which would be minor party status or political committee status. Ballot access is probably the biggest. When candidates come to you, come to a party, seek to run, when you tell them that you got a petition to get on the ballot, it deters a lot of even quality candidates.
Which
They-
would be go get signatures. Yeah. to
Right.
get-
Yeah. So automatic ballot access, and by automatic is you just pay the filing fee.
right.
$100 for state representative, $300 for,
Is that all it is for state rep? Is that
I want to say it's 100, maybe it's 300, but relatively inexpensive. But look, if you've got to go out and collect 1,000 or 2,000 or 3,000 signatures, or you can pay $100 or $300, you're paying the $300. So that's a big benefit. The other big benefit is our partial campaign public financing system that we have in Minnesota. As a minor party, you get what's called the party account section of that, which is funded off the tax checkoff. When you do your annual taxes, there's a $5 checkoff that you doesn't reduce your refund or add to your tax burden, but you can designate that to go to either to the general fund or to a particular political party, will be on your taxes. So you get that piece. But the big piece of that is what's called the general fund, and that only goes to major parties.
Mm-hmm. And how much of that do they get? I guess I'm not.
A qualifying gubernatorial candidate, as an example, it depends on how many candidates are participating in the system, but on the low end would probably be $250,000, $300,000. On the high end, $600,000.
And so if I am running for governor and I accept that money, does it limit how much other money I can raise?
You
or-
have to agree to the public financing system, which allows you to do what's called the political contribution refund, which is a $75 refundable contribution. By the way, we qualify for that. So forwardindependencemn.org, and you can give us up to a $75 donation and get a receipt, a tax form to turn in, and get that money back in about 3 weeks.
Okay.
So you have to. You also get to participate in that, but as the give as a candidate is you agree to spending limits, and you agree to closed captioning on your advertising, and there's a few other things that you agree to as well, including candidate contributions. A candidate is limited to how much he or she can give to their campaign.
So in the last election, did people agree to limits?
It is beginning to be less and less used by the legacy party candidates. Governor Walz opted out of it. He's not the only one. I believe Scott Jensen on the gubernatorial Republican side did participate in it, but I would say, I'd have to look at the math, but I think it's probably 65 or 70% of the statewide candidates in particular are particularly the big races, are opting out of it.
Thanks for explaining that. So is it safe to say then with the merger, you're hoping to sort of, for a strength in numbers, if you will, you have a lot of common goals and it makes more sense using your life of Brian example to kind of not be fighting for the same people, but to join forces, get bigger, and offer more candidates a bigger platform, if you will, to run outside of the two current major parties.
Yeah, absolutely. And the Forward Party has a national element as well. So Andrew Yang, Governor Whitman, and other prominent names who have had big accomplishments, whether it be in Democratic politics or Republican politics or as lifelong independents, that support is not nothing either. And so helping to amplify messages, amplify candidates, raise money, those kinds of things. Coming together and having that national apparatus will be huge for us.
Good. Okay.
We also, if I could,
Yeah.
it was a marriage of, in my mind, experience, folks from the independent side that have been working at this for 5, 10, 15, or 20 years or more, and the energy, and frankly, the youth, because I think there's a younger demographic that was really energized and involved in the Forward Party.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the marriage of experience with energy and youth.
Okay. So in the some of the materials you sent over, one of the things that stood out to me is that you're looking to run ethical, independent candidates. And I just wanted to find out more about what that means. I mean, do you feel like right now we have a lot of unethical candidates out there in the major parties? Like, what does that mean to you exactly?
Interested to hear your thoughts on this. Can you put a quarter in me here for a second?
Sure,
Let me
yeah,
rock for a bit?
put it in.
So, very fair question. And no, we're not just blanket saying every person who runs as a Democrat or a Republican is unethical and doesn't deserve your vote. But let me throw this out at you. You know, if you are going to Washington, D.C. or St. Paul, and you are contorting yourself for the betterment of your party, and so let's say you're fighting for something that you don't truly believe in, but you're doing it because you're being told to by your party bosses or whatever it may be, that's unethical. Mm-hmm. If you are fighting for a piece of legislation because a big donor has given you $100,000 worth of PAC money to believe that, that's unethical. And this morning, Congressman Tom Emmer, who is the congressman in the 6th congressional district, was talking about how President Trump has lowered grocery prices. Well, that's not true, and he knows it's not true. Just like when Trump said the election was stolen in 2020. Emmer knew it wasn't true, but he went along with it. The One Big Beautiful Bill is a grotesque piece of legislation that we cannot afford, that is a giveaway to the ultra-rich who didn't need a giveaway to begin with. On and on and on. The priorities are so out of whack. He knows that's an awful piece of legislation, but not only did he vote for it, he fought for it. Mm-hmm. And where has Tom Emmer gone in Republican House leadership during that time? Up and up and up. He's a majority whip now. Just following the party line, doing what you're told, falling in line, that's unethical. And that's not serving anybody right now. That's not making people's lives better. Phil, I'm going to let you go. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, certainly it's not a blanket statement. There
Yeah.
are quality candidates. And frankly, I would say almost to a candidate, when they first enter into politics, it's for some altruistic, good reasons to do so. Almost to a candidate. The system, I think, is broken. I've talked with state representatives and state senators, over the years, recruitment efforts, trying to find common ground. Had a state senator several years back tell me that he was bucking the party on a tax bill, proposed something, and he said literally within 10 minutes his phone started to ring. Constituents were starting to call. Comes around, he finds out that one of the head Senate staffers put in a call to the party put in a call to put him in line.
Right.
Whips. Majority whips, minority whips is a term. Those are folks that are supposed to whip the votes up, make sure you got the vote count. There's two fundamental ways, I think, to govern. What we do today, what the legacy parties do today, is to gain power and shove their ideas down the other side's throat. When the pendulum swings, as it always does, the opposite happens. They undo what was done before, and then they implement their ideas and shove their ideas down the throat. That has gotten us to where we are today, where there's an othering of everybody. Mm-hmm. Everything's existential. Everything is the enemy. We're all Minnesotans. We're all Americans. We need to work together, and that's the other fundamental way to govern, is to say that whatever the issue is, whatever the solution for that issue is, it's not my solution, it's not his solution or your solution, it's our solution. We need to sit down, talk it out, come up with pragmatic, compromised principles and solutions to that, so that we all walk away from the table. With the former, everybody walks away, or half the people walk away from the table totally angry.
So
With a better way to do it, we all walk away from the table and we say, it's not exactly what I wanted, but I can live with it. And that's a better way to govern, and that's what we're trying to do. And so it's not that the folks themselves are unethical, I think. It is that the system is such that they are forced into a corner to behave in ways that they otherwise might not have done. But that's the system that's in place, and that's what we're trying to break up, to try to say that we need to be able to talk to each other and listen to each other and come up with joint solutions. That moves everybody. As Paul Wellstone said, we all do better when we all do better, and that's the way to do it.
or you don't hate the player, hate the game.
Yeah.
Well, so speaking of the game, you know, you mentioned that I think in there, our finance and system and people getting money from PACs and different stuff like that. How is your party going to be different in terms of how it handles donations and, you know, offerings from PACs and lobbyists and that whole situation? I mean, what are there like guidelines that you're setting up that you want your candidates to follow?
We do with our 3 gubernatorial candidates who are seeking our endorsement. That endorsement will be given out on Monday, November 17th, and like I said, we'll do the unveiling at a press conference on the 20th. All 3 gubernatorial candidates have said they do not want PAC money, and they're going to encourage no donations of that kind. They don't want to be influenced in any way. Our congressional candidate in CD6, and I can actually announce that is Kelly Doss, because our CD6 folks went through that endorsement process, and Kelly is doing the same. She doesn't want that, you know, and she's going to be going up against Emmer in CD6, who is taking gobs of money from everywhere, and so the argument would be, well, you can't win if you don't take that, and we are saying you can. And Phil mentioned the PCR, the political contribution reimbursement through the state. You can donate $75 as an individual or $150 as a couple to Forward Independence Party. We send you a receipt, you fill out a form, you get that money back, which is a great thing for the state to have. It gives more power to individual voters to be able to kind of influence elections. And then, you know, you can give a couple thousand, but that, you know, someone donating a couple $1,000s to a gubernatorial candidate is not going to influence their decision making. So that's not a legalized bribe. If we do come into a situation where a candidate does have some PAC money, I don't know. I mean, we haven't had that conversation, but it's not necessarily. I'll let you give some thoughts on it.
You know, this is a perpetual argument or discussion that you have over time, particularly with alternative politics. We have, from the independent side, we have moved back and forth from a total ban on PAC money, both for candidates and for the party, to accepting them upon a review to make sure that they're in affiliation with principles and values and things like that. I think there's a difference between political action committees. Some of them may well be more altruistic and honest, so to speak. Others might be a little more nefarious or be pushing issues that you don't want to support. So we've made that distinction. And then we've also made distinctions over time that candidates should not take PAC money or cannot take PAC money. The party can upon a review. Currently, we don't have any rules in place for it, but I'm almost certain that it will be a discussion that will come up over the next little while here, next year, next 2 years, where we'll probably end up putting something back in and putting some guardrails around that.
So I'm not saying this is going to happen to you, but in the recent race in New York, Curtis Lewa, he was the Republican candidate, says that he was offered $10 million to not run, right? Because they were so worried that he was going to take votes from Cuomo, I guess. If you believe him, you know, I mean, he's a more ethical person than I am. I would have seriously considered dropping out.
That also could, there could be some fact checks involved that might challenge that a little bit, but maybe not. Yeah.
So let's talk about a few of the issues that people can expect to hear about from your candidates and sort of what the Forward Independence Party is going to be running on. It sounds like obviously having ethical candidates is maybe one, but what are some of the others? I mean, I'm particularly interested in hearing about universal basic income. And, Andrew Yang had a really interesting, what is it? He called them freedom dollars?
Freedom dividend. Yeah.
Freedom dividend.
Yeah.
So are there any big ideas like that are part of the party now? Or?
So when Andrew Yang ran for president in the Democratic primary in 2000, he was the first guy talking about AI, and AI is going to come and it's going to take a lot of jobs. Universal basic income will help us not only handle that, but make sure that everyone can kind of live without having to struggle paycheck to paycheck. And you can kind of get rid of some of the, some SNAP dollars can be reduced if you've got that universal basic income. Andrew Yang deserves a ton of credit for being right about AI, and he's been right everything he said about it since. In my opinion, AI is one of the biggest issues we have facing us right now, and we know how this is going to play out. The AI companies are going to flood Democrats and Republicans with money to help them get reelected, with the understanding that when AI legislation comes up, they will kill it. And if you remember, in the One Big Beautiful Bill, initially there was a piece in the bill that said AI cannot be regulated for 10 years. Luckily, that got out before the final passage and people were outraged and it got taken out. But that shows you what's happening behind the scenes. And if we don't have regulated AI, we're going to just zombie stomp our way into a really, really bad situation with millions of people losing their job. And so when it comes to strict policy platforms, again, we merged in July. That's one of the issues that our policy team is working on right now. And so any candidate can run how they seem on that issue. I will tell you personally, I want to hear from every side, but I do think something similar to what Alaska does with oil. The oil companies get taxed at a certain rate, and that money just goes back to the people of Alaska. I think it would be a federal piece of legislation. Again, this is me talking, not the party, where AI companies, as they make more and more money, that money gets taxed as a rate that goes into a sovereign wealth fund and gets distributed to people and gets distributed to worker programs to help train them for the new jobs of tomorrow. So that was my part on AI. I think it's one of the biggest issues we face. But I think you were just talking about broader policies.
Yeah, well, I think it's great that you bring that up. I feel like in the current political discussion, I mean, everybody says they support jobs, but I feel like they really don't talk about what kind of jobs and what do those jobs look like 3 to 5 years from now.
Right.
It definitely seems like there's this static conversation around our economy and how it is going to develop, right? And so I mean, I think I love that you're bringing up this idea and talking about it. It certainly seems like an important conversation to be in the mix. Were you going to add something there?
I was going to say, from a candidate standpoint, so I mentioned earlier that we're very candidate-centric. And so while we develop the party platform and some of the party issues that we're working on, we have been talking with candidates. A couple of other issues that are rising to preeminence are going to cause some economic problems if they're not looked at. National debt, $38 trillion plus in national debt. We encourage candidates, particularly at the federal level, to look at that and maybe make that a piece of what they run on. It is up to them. It's up to our candidates to decide, but we encourage them to take a look at it because it's an important piece that needs to be addressed. And Social Security, maybe throw in Medicare as well. But Social Security, we've got, 8 more years until there's an automatic 24% reduction across the board if nothing is done. You want to talk about economic problems, poverty problems. If that doesn't get addressed, and the sooner we address that, the easier it's going to be on everybody. It's another issue that we talk to candidates about, taking a look at and seeing if they can't come up with a creative solution that might be a piece of of solving those problems.
So it's kind of your method, if you will, that you raise some of these issues like the debt that seems to really never get talked about with the candidates and say, we think this is important, you should consider it, and then they have the leeway, if you will, to decide, given their district that they're running in, how much to emphasize it or what kind of plan to put out there.
Exactly, not just their district, but also their own leadership too. They may feel a particular affinity for a particular issue or not. And so that's a piece when we talk to candidates, giving that latitude to them, is to you got to find the sweet spot. When you're going to run for office, for anybody running for office, you need to find that sweet spot of issues that you're passionate about, that you have knowledge of, and that the people care about, your constituents care about. You need to find those sweet spots. And so if there is an affinity and a passion for that, then pick it up and talk about it. It's an important issue. And as we develop our party platform, until that is finished and we have something that's a little more concrete and we can point to, look at blank 7, that's this, and maybe run on that. In the interim, we're just raising some issues that we think are of paramount importance to our future.
And we're stressing the need for serious candidates, and luckily the people who are kind of coming to us looking for our endorsement are serious candidates. And a great example of that is $38 trillion in debt and with a nearly $2 trillion deficit annually. So we're just going up. And the current officials are just saying, we're not even going to pretend to care about it anymore. And we are headed towards fiscal calamity, okay? So if you're a serious candidate, you have to address this in some way. Okay, here are some borderline unpopular things that we're going to have to talk about here to address this situation because of years of neglect from both of the major parties. And we believe that voters are open to the idea of hearing some hard truths and saying, well, at least that person's willing to go and work for the common good and work for what we need to get done, as opposed to just short term, what do I need to say to get elected? And so we all know what serious means, and it's not spinning something that your opponent says and trying to turn them into something that they're not. It's not just constantly calling them names. Serious candidates are what you can expect from Forward Independence.
And so how currently does your endorsement process work? Is there's kind of a committee? I mean, I don't think do you hold a convention? Like, how do you determine who the candidates are that you endorse?
It's interesting. We talked about rolling out some candidates on November 20th here. In our merger and the discussions we had, we said to ourselves, one of the things we can do differently is get out in front of candidates, get behind candidates earlier than traditional. Traditional would be wait until our standard May state convention and endorse people there. We think that does a disservice. We're smaller. We acknowledge we're smaller than the legacy parties. We need to do things a little bit differently. So getting behind candidates earlier is a way to do that. So what we've done is when we identify serious quality candidates in races, when we look at a particular candidate and say, 80% chance, 90% chance that you're the candidate that is going to get this and the candidate that we want, then we close the process. We give a couple-week notice, put it on social media, advertise that if you're interested in this particular race, you need to contact us, and if you are, we'll bring you into the fold and we'll start the process. And that process is local vetting, national vetting, and then in this case we call the special state convention for the purposes of endorsement.
Okay, so you're kind of they're being vetted, being endorsed now. And then in May, there will be a convention that kind of makes an official endorsement or of some sort. And
it'll be 3 waves. So there'll be a special state convention for November 17th. And so all the 30-plus delegates have gotten an opportunity to meet the candidates, and there's going to be a final candidate forum. And after that, they'll get an opportunity to vote for who we should endorse, or maybe we shouldn't endorse it. That'll be an option for them as well. And so there's going to be the candidates are fully vetted by everybody involved before making a vote. And to his point, the idea of being able to throw the full weight of the party behind a candidate early. And if you're going to get in for governor, for instance, which is one of the races we're endorsing in, a state auditor, you do have to get in early. So we feel pretty good about not doing it too early. We feel like if you're a candidate for one of those offices, you're probably going to be announced by now. So we're excited about the idea of being able to have the full weight of the party behind these candidates for nearly a year leading into the election. I think it's going to be a great advantage for us to help kind of even the playing field with the legacy parties that have to wait until the summer.
So the May, just to clarify,
Sure.
there's stages. So they'll be fully endorsed
Yeah.
in our candidates for November 2026.
And then we'll have another endorsement process in January and a final endorsement process in May. So that's how the stages will go. And we've set out just kind of thrown out the number of 26 candidates in 2026. But
so these,
more-
so just so I can
Yeah.
clarify. So the candidates that you're announcing on the 20th is not going to be the full slate.
Not
They're-
going to be the full slate. Correct.
Stage,
Yeah, correct.
stage one.
Yeah.
Okay,
Stage
good.
one.
I was not
Yeah.
clear on that.
It's
I
a
thought-
multi-stage rocket.
Okay.
We've lifted off, and that's stage one.
Okay,
yes.
so congressional district 6, there might be other congressional districts that
Yes.
have a candidate? Okay.
And looking at Minnesota, there's really only one competitive congressional district, Congressional District 2. The other districts are either heavily leaning towards the Democratic candidate or heavily leaning towards the Republican candidate. So in those races, it makes a lot of sense for the forward independence candidate to be the main competitor, because in CD5, they're probably never going to elect a Republican, at least in the near future. But they would be willing to support an independent candidate. So we think we're best positioned to take on a lot of those congressional races.
So do you know if you're going to run someone in CD5, or is that still open?
We've got two folks that have expressed considerable interest, but have not yet fully decided that they want to run.
Okay.
So I think they both are close to deciding, but probably a month away for them to figure out if that's the case.
So once you make these announcements, like are the governor, state auditor, are they going to start kind of touring around the state, trying to meet with people, talk? Is that the idea?
If they're doing it right, yes.
Yeah. And so our state, we have one state auditor candidate right now who's seeking our endorsement, and he's been running a campaign for a couple months, and is doing everything the right way. And then
His name is Jay Reeves.
Yeah, Jay Reeves, a military veteran, and the work he's putting in right now to position himself for this job is really incredible. And at state auditor, we really should have an independent auditor. It should not be someone who is influenced by one of the two legacy parties where there's electeds in those parties everywhere. And so he's got a really compelling case. But again, you need, is he qualified? And so we're really excited about the fact that not only do we need an independent auditor, but he's the guy for the job. And then two of our gubernatorial candidates have started their campaigns already, and they've been campaigning for a month or so.
Okay. All right. So I like the idea of an independent state auditor for sure after what we've seen in the state. Kind of going back to universal basic income or universal child care, or are any of these things going to be like a baseline part of the platform, or universal health care? Because for me, that's one of the things that's kind of confusing about the Democratic Party, is that, say some candidates in the Democrats are for universal health care, some are not, and it's can be a little hard to figure out, if it's a party position or just a candidate position. So I'm just wondering, are there any basic offerings that you'd like to see all of your candidates support, like a universal health care?
I don't know about universal health care as a policy for the party. I will say Kelly Doss, who's our CD6 candidate, is running on universal health care, and it's one of the main reasons that she is getting into this race. And with what we're seeing right now, with subsidies being taken away and insurance rates going up, it unfortunately is going to be a really bad situation for a lot of folks, I believe. And I think there's probably going to be an openness by some who initially had disregarded it as some socialist takeover, to be a little bit more open to that. But
So
yeah.
to rephrase that, you basically think things are going to get so bad in our healthcare system that people will be open to a universal health care?
Well,
Is that kinda it?
I guess I would argue they already are that bad. But
Right.
yeah, I don't need. Phil, I'll let you chime in here.
You know, I talked earlier about being candidate-centric. So, and again, we're working on that process of what the party, detailed party platform is going to look like. We do have eight issue areas right now, but they're more thematic, I think, than very specific. But we're working hard to be that candidate-centric party. We think part of the problem is the party mandates onto candidates. So the idea, I think, for us is that it's going to be enough of a ideology or a philosophy, a commonality that is not lockstep. And even if you are a candidate and we do have a party platform, a particular plank, you can disagree with that plank. That's fine. We have on the independent side traditionally gone with an 80% agreement, but you can disagree with whatever 20% you want. I'm going to advocate that we maintain something along those lines, which means you may have a candidate that may run for a particular issue that is or is not on the party platform. But that's okay, because what we're also trying to do is be equal parts substance and style. And the substance part is the planks and the issues. The style part is how do you implement those solutions? And that, again, is the ability to sit across a table, not with animosity, but with curiosity, and learn from folks. Look, wisdom comes with age. I think I've gotten wiser over the years, and it's because I don't know everything. And to be able to sit down and have an honest conversation, and I can go into a particular issue. I can go into universal health care with a particular position. You've got an opposite position, but if I come in with inquisitiveness and curiosity, and I listen to what you're saying, I should leave that conversation, worst case, knowing where you're coming from. Better case, from your perspective is I move my position, and you should do the same. And then we find something that's probably somewhere in between, in global perspective, that we can agree on, that we can implement. And speaking of healthcare, I always like to say this. Look, I've got a master's degree. I read estimation of benefits. I read the explanation of benefits. Why they call them both EOBs, I'm not quite sure. That confuses it. But as you go through coding, procedures, the legalese and the medicalese of the language, I think I'm a smart guy. Too much of the time, I got no idea what the hell they're talking about.
Yeah.
And that's a problem with healthcare.
Yeah, I mean, it's confusing as heck in figuring out, like, why some things get paid for and others don't, and, reading your bills, that's for sure. But I guess where I'm going is just wondering if there's something that you want, say, the audience to take away with them when they think of the Forward Independence Party. What would those things be? Like you mentioned some concern about the debt, which you certainly don't hear about others. And I know you have kind of some principles here: education, free markets, tax and investment, preserving and improving democracy, agriculture and rural communities, public safety, energy and natural resources, families and children. So those are some big themes that sounds like you're promoting. But what's the kind of the shortened version, the statement that you would like, that you think people will give your party a real consideration on? So, I mean, that's kind of why one of the reasons I was asking about universal health care, because it's like, oh, that's the party that's for universal health care. But it doesn't sound like maybe that's been decided yet. But are there sort of some general themes that you would like people to associate with this new Forward Independence Party?
Yeah, so I would say that when we really, because we want to be really thorough with how we do things. I think you can associate this party with the party that's going to be proactive with AI and making sure that all the profits don't just go to the tech companies and everyone else gets left behind, or the AI companies. But things are a lot easier when our public officials are not influenced by special interest money. And so, no, nothing's easy. Being governor of Minnesota is not easy, but it's even harder when you've got a hand tied behind your back because you have to placate all these people who helped get you elected. And I would say that some of the fraud that we've seen, why were people not more proactive in stopping that before it got started, was likely because in some cases it benefited the people that they were on board with benefiting. But it is a lot easier when you are just focused on doing what's right for your constituents, to try and make things better, to try and talk to both sides. You're not worried about a scoreboard and scoring points for your political party. And so I would say that that's what we are going to stand for. And all I ask is that the folks out there give forward independence candidates a chance. Now is the time. There is a growing sentiment of people saying we need a viable third option. And here we are. And so what we ask is that you give that candidate a shot. And maybe if it's a little bit out of your comfort zone because you just always click the D or you always click the R, we're saying now is the time to take that chance. And we understand there's a lot of calculations right now, especially when it comes to Congress with taking back power in Washington, D.C., with an executive that's maybe run amok a little bit. All our calculations, every race will have its own calculation, right? And those will be part of our calculation. But again, to the point of so many of these races, the Democrats haven't won in CD6 since 2000. So we have a candidate there. She can win there. So let's have her be the opposition to the incumbent there. Phil?
AI, election reform, a variety of election reform measures. I think that's what the party stands
for. Could you
for.
talk about that a little bit more? Like
Sure.
What sort of reforms are you seeking?
We support ranked choice voting, maybe a top 5, top 4 open primary system. Top 2, I don't think works.
Could you explain that a little bit? I don't know if everyone understands what that means.
Yeah, so they're often called jungle primaries, is often what they're called. And so all the candidates go into the primary, and you can vote for anybody that you want.
Regardless of their party.
Regardless of their party. And then the if it's top 2, then the top 2 advance to the general election, top 4 advance, top 5 advance. Then there's usually a process for an independent candidate to still get into the mix if they're truly just an independent. So that's another proposal that we're intrigued by. And then proportional representation. And there are 17 ways or more to slice and dice proportional representation. So whatever that might look like. Multi-member districts, that's where we have 8 congressional districts in Minnesota. Maybe everybody runs statewide and you elect 8 people. And so that's a proportional representation because you only need 25%, or 24.9, 25% will get you a seat. But there are other ways, party lists, member lists, et cetera, So those are some election reforms.
That's interesting because, I mean, I'm glad you spoke about those things. They're not things I would have associated with the Independence Party or now the new Forward Independence Party. So I do like the idea of talking about those type of reforms. I don't know if we'll ever see them. And you mentioned ranked choice voting, which we have in Minneapolis. We just used it to elect the new mayor. Some people were thrilled with that. Other people had some real issues. We don't have it for state candidates. And so
they do in Maine and Alaska.
So, okay. But here in Minnesota, I don't know, it would take a real change to get that added. So for 2026, how would you respond to people who would say that the Forward Independence Party is running in a spoiler type position? Because that's I think, the hard issue to ever overcome, regardless of like what your positions are, the quality of your candidates. they're going to level that criticism, right? That you're a spoiler party or candidate. So what's the strategy for addressing that?
Well, Bill talked about Kelly Doss up in CD6 against Tom Emmer. Democrats haven't won in what would that be, 12 election cycles.
Mm-hmm.
Who's the spoiler? We have a solid candidate up there, and I think if voters start to take a look at issues, start to take a look at the fundraising that we believe she'll be able to do, that she is the challenger, and that the Democrat, the DFLer, is spoiling that race. So we try to identify, that's one strategy that we use, is try to identify those areas.
And if we have a candidate who we feel is better than the other candidates running, we are always going to support that candidate because that's what the people deserve. It's the best candidate possible. Again, there will be calculations made on every single race. If we just have people coming to us who maybe aren't going to be able to run a very viable campaign, maybe we'll have some considerations in that. Our state auditor candidate, our candidate in CD6, and the candidate that we endorse for governor, we feel are the best options for those three races. And we are absolutely really looking forward to unveiling them at the Capitol on November 20th for the people to get an opportunity to get to know them and get to know what they stand for. And we feel that if they are able to get their message into enough people throughout the state or in CD6, that people will determine that they are the best candidate in those races. So yeah, you're right. I mean, you're right. Of course, you're going to get because the idea is that the Republicans and the Democrats just deserve to be the only two people in those races. And what has that gotten us? I mean, we can't be serious if we're just going to continue to do the cycle where we just switch power back and forth and continue to let the ultra rich and special interest groups and big business dictate who our candidates are and what our candidates fight for once they get elected. So.
Well, great. I thank you both for coming in and talking about the party and its future. I'm sure it's going to be exciting. I look forward to hearing what your candidates have to say. Before we close up, are there any final topics that you wanted to make sure that we cover that people hear about?
I would just like to say thank you to you because everything we've talked about is that there's just it's DNR and it's just these two legacy parties, right? And credit to you for saying, well, no, there's another option out there, and I'm going to give them a platform. And so we hope that other media outlets and podcasters feel the same way. So thank you for having us on.
Well, once upon a time I ran for city council as a Green. So
there you go.
I know some of the challenges of trying to make a name for yourself as a third party. So
let me say that reminded me of a Facebook memory that came up with this election, which I think was 2018. It said, 7 years ago, I put a post up saying that I voted for an Independence Party candidate at the time, a Republican, a Democrat, a Grassroots Party candidate, and a Green Party candidate. Voters can split their votes up, and I encourage you to do so. Take a look at us, learn more about us at www.forwardindependencemn.org.
Okay. And is there an email that they can use or no?
Minnesota@forwardparty.com
Okay.
would be a good way to reach out, but the website will have a lot of that information.
Website's got that. If you want, info@mnip.org. It's a legacy email, but we still get that one too.
Yeah.
So info@mnip.org.
All right. Well, great. Thank you.
Appreciate you. Thanks.
Thank you.